Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here and be part of this forum. It's a wonderful forum. I'm Shashank Rath. I'm a partner with Synergy Consulting, and we are financial advisors across different sectors, including transport. So I'm lucky enough to have a set of panelists who represent both the private sector, the public sector, and across the entire region, like exactly what we want the forum to be, is to represent a set of international investors, developers, government officials from across the floor. So I won't take too much time out of this because we're here to listen to them. So the way we'll go about it is we have 1 hour, we have a set of panelists. So we have a couple of questions for each of them in terms of understanding their thoughts about how they see the whole transport sector evolving, not just in Uzbekistan, but across the entire Central Asia region. And then depending on how much time we have, we'll be happy to take questions from the audience if we have time and we have questions. So without much ado, I'll just do a very quick round of introductions. I'm sure most of you know the panelists here, but I'll just, for the sake of others who may be new here, and then we'll start with the questions. I think just from the left, I have His Excellency Mr. Ilham Makamov, who's the Ministry of Transport for the Republic of Uzbekistan. Then we have, sorry, I'll just come back to you. His Excellency the Ambassador Kubanichev Umuraliev, sorry sir if I got it wrong, the Secretary General of the Organization of the Turkic States. Then we've got Mario Antonio Epchim, the Director of Strategy and Market Development for Boeing. Then we've got Mr. Kanat Alpichbayev, Managing Director of Western and Central Asia for Alstom, and Mr. Mikhail Volkov, who's a partner and the Managing Director for Boston Consulting Group in Tashkent. So, like I said, the reason we are here is to talk about how transport and train connectivity helps improve the trade and economic conditions for the entire region. And we heard today morning about the Silk Road, and the Silk Road is something I read in history when I was a kid, and I'm sure everybody across the world has read it. That was the road that connected Europe to Asia for many centuries and was a road through which not just trade happened, but then people traveled, cultures got exchanged, which is why Central Asia is so diverse in terms of the cultures it is. But now when we fast forward it by a few hundred years, if you look at the data, the trade between Europe and Asia is done more through the maritime route, which is the sea travel, rather than road. And for Central Asia, given the fact that the countries are landlocked, Uzbekistan is only one of the two doubly landlocked countries in the world, and Kazakhstan is the largest landlocked country in the world, so road transport becomes extremely important. And the cross-border issues in terms of, or any easing the cross-border challenges will make trade extremely easy and comfortable for everybody. So without kind of getting too much into myself, I'll start with His Excellency Mr. Ilham Makamov, the Minister of Transport. He's been with the ministry since 2019. And again, sir, I'm sure all of them know you. So without getting into too much ado, he's been in the government and across different entities for a long time. So we just wanted to have his thoughts about what do you see about the transport situation and the connectivity across the region, and how would that help Uzbekistan in terms of improving its trade.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shangrank, dear colleagues.
Dear colleagues, dear ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you at our plenary session, at our panel session, and of course, in the framework of today's Tashkent Investment Forum, International Investment Forum, I guess you face no issues with simultaneous interpretation, and since all of us have heard the session, the panel session by the President of Republic of Uzbekistan, and you have heard that the priority direction mentioned by the President, and of course it is very important, and let me mention that we cannot of course skip this issue, because the transport integration of transport corridors of Republic of Uzbekistan is extremely important, and we are developing it together with neighboring countries. And let me also mention that that in Uzbekistan we are having significant reforms undertaken, and transportation area, transportation sector should become one of the most important drivers of economy of Uzbekistan. And of course, transportation is very important, and uh, and we are engaging international organizations, and we are engaging World Bank, International Financial Corporation, other organization. We are engaging BCG and other consulting companies. So within 5 or 6 years, indeed, we had a lot of reforms undertaken in these various activities, and in these sectors. Therefore, of course, also aviation sector is booming and intensively developing. Therefore, of course, we are having private air companies operating, and our ministry is creating a favorable condition for simultaneous development of all the air companies, would it be air carriers, local or the foreign-owned one. And of course, we are working now on public-private partnership of international airports. The Samarkand airport has been given to Samarkand. Now Bukhara and Urgench international airports at these historical cities, as well as airports at Andijan and Namangan, have also been prepared for PPP. And this year the tender will be undertaken for giving them into PPP. And of course, aviation is one of the key factors of mobility of businesses, as well as of civil passengers carrier. And of course, a key factor for development of Republic of Uzbekistan is railways development. And of course, we have to embrace not just the infrastructure development, but also private sector's development, both in establishment of infrastructures, as well as cargo carriage, as well as passenger carriage all across the countries and internationally, regionally. We are creating favorable conditions for our companies, and of course our international carriers also. It is very important, and of course we have to keep in mind that a lot of things. Of course, a railroad is also important, transport, and of course we will have to engage them also in development of railroad transportation. And also you should keep in mind that motor road cargo carriage is very important for us at the moment, and our export cargo is carried by railroad at the moment. And of course, we are working very proactively with various countries, including our neighboring countries of the region, with whom we are trying to integrate into international transportation corridors, which might connect Asia with Europe. And of course, here Uzbekistan is planning to propose all the conditions for Uzbekistan to become, I would say, a bridge connecting Asia and Europe. And we are happy to take part in corridors from north to south and from west to east. And of course, we can provide all the conditions for our cargo carriage. Therefore, of course, the task which have been put by the President of Republic of Uzbekistan, of course, it is very important for us, but still we have to keep in mind that the private capital should also be engaged and private funds should be engaged. And of course, the President of Uzbekistan has created favorable conditions for this, and we have to now convey these conditions to you. Therefore, I'm very happy for your participation, and I'm ready to answer all of your questions.
Okay, sorry. Is there anything? So I think the one question I had for you was just in terms of you talked about increasing trade across north and south, in east and west. So right now, what are the main trade partners for Uzbekistan, and how do you see the whole development of the network help in that?
Ну, последние 3-4 года показывают, что стабильности в транспортных коридорах и логистических
Actually, you can see that there is no stability, and the pandemic showed that even the situation with Ukraine. So availability of international corridors is also very important. Therefore, we have to keep in mind that we have to be more proactive in using our, I would say, Mediterranean corridors of Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan, connecting them with Azerbaijani corridors and etc. So using Azerbaijan and Georgia, and you should say that these corridors with Turkey should also be kept in mind. And of course, if we will have these 6 and 7 corridors, so of course it is very important, and we are working on other corridors which might connect and us, and of course it is very important and to connect us also with Iran, with Turkmenistan, and we are render all the possible opportunities, and with Uzbekistan, and of course we are working proactively on the Trans-Afghanian corridor, and at the moment we have the Pakistan and Uzbekistan. Our corridor is working, but still we are engaging motor road transportation for this, and our trilateral transportation. And we had the B2B meeting and the B2G meeting, and therefore we should mention that we have been engaging also Afghanistan, and therefore integration from I would say middle corridor to north to south is very important and relevant at the moment.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. I think for that. It was very detailed and a comprehensive answer. So I think since you talked about partnership and all the entire region, I think next we'll go to His Excellency Mr. Kubanichbek Omuraliyev. Again, sorry for that. The Secretary General of the Organization of Turkish States. So this entity was set up in 2009 as an inter-government entity to help the cooperation across different countries. And so again, I've read about it a little bit, but I'm sure sir knows a lot more and he can talk about a lot more. So I'm not going to cover what it is and how it is. So I think Mr. Omuraliyev has a diverse experience of having worked not just in his home country, the Kyrgyz Republic, but has worked across pretty much the entire world, within Asia, in North America, in Middle East, as well as in Turkey as well. So, and he, because of that experience, I'm sure he also has a personal insight into how trade within the entire Central Asia region will be benefited by the Turkish Organization of Turkish States. So I think the question I had for you was, what are the initiatives that are being taken by the entity you head in terms of to promote the seamless trade across its member countries?
Thank you, Chairman, to giving me floor. Of course, today as panelists, except me, all of his professional peoples in transportation and logistic, and including his ministers here. But I am just how in Turkey say bureaucrats is good word, like in the political. As Secretary General, let me to introduce a little bit about our project, common projects, and about our organization. Of course, first of all, I would like to thank you to Uzbek side to organizing this kind of important events, and they also inviting us to visit. Me and my delegation is here, and I hope today's this event will bring some concrete results too. So today's economic relation from the basis of cooperation with the framework of Turkic states have is important economic bloc as whole with total GDP is 1.2 trillion US dollars, ranking in 13 biggest economy in the world. In the last 12 years, total foreign trade volume was OTS member state to the world reach it was, again 1.2, which means is increased by 30%. But GDP is total was 1.5 trillion. OTS funding member states and observers has increased by 22 since 2015, amounting to almost 28 billion dollars between our member states trade volume. So is also, in other words, exports between countries corresponding to only 5.5% on total export to the world. Due to the strategic geolocation connecting Europe and Asia, transport, just the minister, His Excellency mentioned, is really is hub between Asia and Europe, is our main of member states. And the transport interconnectivity plays a crucial role in promoting economic growth and the regional integration among member countries and the observers. The Turkic states continued efforts to improve transport infrastructure and the connectivity, which was contributed to the development of various international transport corridors and increasing the flow of goods and the service across the region. The organization has a particular interest developing the Trans-Caspian International East-West Middle Corridor, we call Middle Corridor, well-developed, interconnected, and the sustainable transport networks in the Middle Corridor are vital not only of the industrial development, competitiveness, and the attractiveness in our countries, but also for efficient and the lucrative trade relations between the countries on the region. In addition to rail transportation, the Middle Corridor also includes a maritime transportation component. The Baku International Sea Trade Port in Azerbaijan, which serves as key hub for the Middle Corridor, shows 43% increase in cargo volume with a total 7.46 million tons of the cargo in 2021 as compared to the previous years. The opening of new rail and the road connections, the construction of new logistic centers, and the development of digital technologies to improve logistic process are all expected to contribute to gross transportation volume through the Middle Corridor. We have our main strategic document, Turkic World Vision 2040, and also which was adopted in Istanbul Summit, in our OTS Istanbul Summit 2021. And also we have OTS strategy for 2022-2026, which adopted in Samarkand Summit last year. We have set several goals, including developing physical infrastructure for seamless connectivity, promoting digitalization, and the developing e-documents. This automatic ticket sales system, e-tier, e-permit, and digital documents, e-CMR, and the transparency, the existing bilateral system on rules of origin into its multilateral framework, among others. So the notable project is Baku-Tbilisi Kars Railway, which is connected Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey, provides a direct role link between Asia and Europe. This project has significantly reduced transportation cost and the time, and it has increased trade and economic cooperation among cooperation among the countries. Another important ongoing project, many of you know, in the last year during Samarkand Summit, Shanghai, it was signed one is big project. This railroad is China, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan. This railroad, it will be closer railroad between Europe and Asia, is connected. So it's also nice, just we exchange with ministers short information regarding this. Already this technical economic document is done, is visible studies. I think in the end of this year it will be start, yes, yeah, first. Look, it's very soon. But it's, frankly, during 20 years, it was just, how say, you know, it's not maybe undiplomatic word use. It was talking, and sometimes, you know, it was finally political will done. So is another project. It will be soon. It will be implemented. Today, the International Forum Internet Railway Connectivity of Turkic State, Fergana Valley Anadolu, was organized in Fergana. Right now, this forum is continuing by OTS Secretariat in cooperation with Municipality of Fergana region. Is also bring together all our transport and the logistic private and the public sectors. They come and the sitting together is also discussing how can to improve this our all which was in there. But everybody know economy can grow without good transportation and the logistic. So another important initiative is Trans-Caspian International Transport Road, which connected China, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey via rail and the sea. Of course, today I am not talking regarding about aviation transport because you know the Boeing from my left side. So, and the other colleagues they will be more will be focused in this area. In addition, the opening of the Zangezur corridor in Azerbaijan will be provide new avenues of regional cooperation, connectivity, and the formation of formidable roads that will have multiple socio-economic, geopolitical, and the geographic dividends. Is also in the very important project. Distinguished participants and the just above mentioned about Turkic World Vision 2040 and the OTS strategy for 2022-26 is also is transport, coordinating transport development, and the sister ports is also including, is promoting in particular cooperation with this mentioned documents. Just, you know, in the earlier I mentioned, in the short term, and our main focus will be in facilitating transport and the transit procedures of the OTS member states, including to use modern digital tools, and is applying electronic tier, e-permit, and the ECMR. Is first starting between Uzbekistan and the Kyrgyzstan, now is Kazakhstan. Is I hope in next is Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan will be joined. And this is also will be bring more achievements, and of course it will be put for economic growth. Of course, in in terms of improving the legal foundation of transport cooperation, the agreement of combined free transportation, and the agreement of the establishing of Simplified Custom Corridor, and the OTS Transport Connectivity Program, where is signed within the framework of organization. The above mentioned mechanism and the adopted documents will be highly contribute to increasing connectivity between Turkic states. And that could be facilitate cross-border trade, of course, to increase presenting opportunities for private investors to invest in the logistic and the transportation industries that support trade. The current geopolitical realities in the region have resulted in significant consequences for the transport sector. Is now more important than ever for the status of the region and the international organization to collaborate closely and coordinate their efforts to enhance the competitiveness to existing roads and to develop new alternative ones. In this context, Organization of Turkic States remains ready to join our efforts towards this direction to enhance to close cooperation within international and the regional organizations, including UNICEF, IORU, OECD, Trasica, and the others, to significant projects and the programs. We are also interested in establishing cooperation mechanism to involve the regional countries, neighbor countries in the transport and the custom cooperation within the organization Turkic States. Uzbekistan has given a new significant inputs, just Minister mentioned, to the activities of the OTS and is very actively involved in the development of cooperation with the framework of organization in all areas, especially in trade, economic, and the transport and the logistic areas. I am confident today's second Tashkent International Economic Forum will be a useful platform. And of course, today's our panel also, it will be useful and will be helpful. And once again, I would like to let me my appreciation to Uzbek side to organizing this event, and from me and from on behalf of my delegation, and hope again I will be this forum will be bring more achievements, and I would like to wish to all of you success. And if you have any questions, I am also to answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Amar Aliyev.
Thank you, His Excellency. So I think you kind of covered a lot of aspects of our roads, rail, as well as ports. I think, like you said, in the middle, I think the next is air transport. So we have an expert here from the Boeing company, Mr. Mario Antonio Apchim, who's Director of Strategy and Market Development for the company. He's been in the aviation sector for a very long time, I guess a few decades, and he's been, he also has experience of covering 16 airline companies across not just the Central Asia region, but even the Caucasian region and Russia. And he has been involved in network and fleet planning. So I think we had a very comprehensive answer on the roads and rails. So I think I'm sure we'll get more insights on how Central Asia can become the hub for air cargo, given that there is a lot of landlocked countries in the region, and also trade within the region, as well as then become a hub for trade between Europe and Asia. So your thoughts, Mario? Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be in Tashkent again. Tashkent is connecting people, and hopefully will connect as well merchandises. Nice to see Minister Makhamov. Very pleased to meet you, Ambassador. And of course, distinguished colleagues. And as I said, we see familiar faces from the industry and from the governments. Nice to be here. Thanks for inviting the Boeing company, which is always happy to be here. The Secretary General was kind enough to leave me the airspace, let's say, and I would like to give you some high-level data. If you are interested to know about more how we see the market, especially the air cargo market, you can go to Google and type Boeing WACF, World Air Cargo Forecast, and you'll have a lot of data there that we do this forecast every 2 years to help the industry understand where the whole thing is going, besides our commercial market outlook, which is more specific on the passenger side. So why air cargo is important, and we believe it's something key for Central Asia. We'll come back to Central Asia a bit later. Let's remind what the guest speakers told us this morning. President Mirziyoyev said, we need to invest in transportation. Then, if I remember well, the Minister of Economy of Hungary said that there will be a huge production potential between Uzbekistan and Hungary on pharma, agriculture. Those will be needed to be moved, right? The Minister of Energy of the UAE also mentioned about the investments done by UAE in the region in the level of transportation. So this is good because we see that there is a huge interest in transportation and I hope in air, because that's very lucrative. And why lucrative? Because the question is more, landlocked countries have challenges, but when you look at Turkey, Istanbul, Hong Kong, Hamburg, maybe the Emirates, they all have big ports, seaports. So maritime cargo is very important for them, but let's not forget that those folks have also invested in air cargo. You have Turkish cargo that is potential big. Cathay Pacific has its own cargo. Lufthansa, Singapore, another big port, right? Why? Because it's a lucrative business. When you have the right strategy and the right assets, Boeing assets, of course, you can make money, and this is what is required. We'll come back on that. And this business is around $170 billion for now, right? And if you look at, as we said, 90% maybe of the freights are going through Asia and Europe via the maritime road, but the 1% that goes through air generates 35% of the total value, because what is transported has high value, agriculture, electronics, machinery, those are things that, if required by speed and reliability, the air cargo is the right thing to do and invest. If we come to Central Asia now, I did a small research on flight radar. I took the last 4 years, and what we see on the 5 stance countries, so Central Asia only, we see that there is almost 91% growth in terms of departure flights, cargo flights, from the 5 countries. So it's roughly 9,000 flights compared to 4,000 flights in 2019, so before pandemic. The leader is Kazakhstan, almost 60% of the market, but not by a Kazakh carrier. The good thing is that Uzbekistan has only 26% of this big share, but everything is almost carried by Uzbekistan Airways cargo, which is good. And this needs to be continued, right? Doing what? Investing in air cargo. We believe as a company that this is key for the sovereignty, this is key for handling emergency periods, whether COVID or earthquakes. We don't want this to happen, but you may have your own sovereignty when you have your own air cargo fleet. Thank you. I'll stop there because there are too much statistics, but you can go and double check on our forecast. Thank you.
Thanks, Mario. I think that Boeing cargo report is extremely useful. We also refer to it for some of the work we do on the cargo side, so I can assure you that's some very good data which is useful for people. So thank you for that. I think we've talked a lot about transport. I think we'll just move a little bit from transport to logistics to a certain extent. And for that, we have Mr. Kanat Albisbayev, who's the Managing Director for Western and Central Asia for Alstom. Now, there's a long list of countries in that, so I'll have to read it out. I couldn't remember it. So it's Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Armenia, and Georgia. So, sir, I think we're kind of running a little behind time, so I won't go through the full introduction that I have for you, but you've got an extremely rich experience across a lot of different entities and sectors, which includes railways as well as aviation. So I think what we want to hear from you is that COVID-19 came, COVID-19 thankfully, hopefully is behind us. And that helped the cargo business for sure, but how did it disrupt the overall supply chain across the market? And how has that impacted the region, and what are the initiatives being taken to kind of address those challenges?
Okay. Спасибо за предоставление.
Thank you very much. Regarding the logistics sector and the development of the logistics sector in our region, and to evaluate the quality of the services, of course, you have to work under the pressure, under the stress regime. And one of the examples how it works in Kazakhstan after the COVID-19 and due to the geopolitical situation which is happening now between Russia and Ukraine, it completely changed the map of logistics in Eurasian continent. And so for the countries like Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, it is very important to have the diversification of the route. And if you see the traditional connections between the Central Asia, which were traditionally go through the Belarus and due to the sanctions which we have now and which we face now, and Europe is reviewing the possibility of having the full block of the coming import or some goods from the Russia, and then it will completely destroy the middle corridor. And this is the statistics, and this is the reality we face now. And a lot of companies, they have the significant increase of the cost, and you know that the price for the logistics incredibly increased, and also the necessary timing, like from the 15 days to 60 days, for example. And that's why I would like us to focus our attention and the attention of the operators of the railway administration. Of course, in the future, we need to contribute. We need to make investments, and following the speech of His Excellency, the President of Uzbekistan, I am completely agree that we need to improve the logistics sector, and we need to have investments in this sector a lot. For example, in Azerbaijan, there is a high urgency to change the signalization in Azerbaijan, the Baku-Ural station, and we need to fix the corridor so it will be smoothly work, and it will go the alternative services with the appropriate prices. So in general, if we take the development of logistics, I would like to say about the very good tool which were developed by World Bank, GPI Index. And this year, this is a new report, the LPI composition, and you can see from the slide that the level of competency, the logistics, like where we are, completely to the benchmark. Let's see Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, etc. So you can see with the countries, let's say Singapore, which is like average out of 150 countries, and here we can see the area of growth for us. We need to take into accordance like with the customs. We also need to follow the international shipping and the speed of delivery and the competency, the infrastructure, the possibility of the monitoring and tracking. So straight to the point, I would like to say that the minister was saying about the infrastructure and in the necessity of having further diversification, all cargo and other shippings. And going back to this report, landlocked countries which are not having the access to sea, all ships are have delay in transition. So it's not at the beginning and ending, but in transition. So what it is saying to us, let's take simple example. Now we are working as a company, Alstom, we are working that with the significant changes in the supply chain, we need to work more with China and India. And if we are talking about the shipping from India, it is the route by ship to Iran, or we can go till the Georgia, and then we should go to the railway and or by car till Kazakhstan. But Uzbekistan initiated a very interesting project. It's like Trans-Afghan Corridor. It's a Kabul corridor, and now you can see it in Punctured Line. And I think this project in real can give us very good alternative. Why? Because the timing will be reduced completely, and also very good point that Uzbekistan is providing and like they are having to continue the good politics with Afghanistan, and also to go, like, you know, from the Termes, they can go further with the railway, and they can continue the project which was started in Termes. And I think this politics is very good, which if we continue this railway to the Pakistan, so because on Afghanistan it will take about 800 kilometers, and then till the Pakistan. I hope the countries in regions, they support this project, and then we can significantly reduce the time. It's a very simple example, the Alstom, and I think there are a lot of companies similar to us, and we really need these short routes, like where we can work fast. The diversification of corridors will help us to become more sustainable in our national economics, because now we face like a huge challenge in geopolitical way. Thank you very much.
I think that was a very useful, and again, the pictorial representation of how transportation can help in terms of reducing costs and improving the trade. So I think talking of transit and transit flows, we have Mr. Mikhail Volkov next, who is the partner and managing director of BCG in Tashkent. He's an expert in terms of transportation cost optimization, and he has experience in terms of large-scale transformations and managing flow costing for different trade routes. So I think, Mr. Mikhail, the question for you would be that what can Central Asian countries do to facilitate transit flows through them and reduce their transportation costs? And just after that, maybe since we're talking of an investment forum, what opportunities do you see across the different sectors for private sector to invest and maybe international investors to come into the region as well?
Господин модератор,
Thank you, moderator. Thank you for inviting to this forum, to this important session. BCG have been working on this for 10 years, let's say, and Mr. Minister, he mentioned that we are working in Uzbekistan as well, and with Mr. Kanat, we also been sharing that 10 years ago we were already trying to create the like joint venture between the Belarus and Russia, and now we are working with Azerbaijan Railways to stimulate the transit and developing the middle corridor. And I think this is a very important topic, and it's a very comprehensive topic from the other side. And I would like to share my presentation. Maybe it will be the continuation of the topic which Kanat started. Why it is comprehensive topic? Let's say Uzbekistan sheep. And then if we want to take it to the Black Sea, so it should go to the Caspian Sea, and then to Alia. Then so it's like all about the customs going expeditors, like it's all about overloading, and again overloading. So it is not like one point, and BCG last year it made a kind of a survey. How do you how much do you satisfy with the logistics services in the middle corridors, like from 1 to 10, like parameters like the stability, the pricing, the conditions, and etc. And the statistics is not very joyful, let's say. And we participants of the corridor, we hit 3.5 out of 10, and this is the opinion of the clients and expeditors. So replying to your question, what is necessary to implement to stimulate the transition, to reduce costs, the optimization of the transport and logistics cost, it is very, very simple. We need to develop transport product. And it's easy to say, but it's difficult to implement. And I think 3 main components which we need to develop, which we need to have in order to develop these transport products. So we can grow from 3.5 till 5 or till 7 or even to Singapore, which is like quite higher than we. So three components which I mentioned are stability, stability of price, and timing. It is developing infrastructure of all participants in the corridor, and minister also mentioned a lot about it, and the president also mentioned. And the third one, it's operational processes between countries members. And it should be, on the country level. And we live in the corporate world, and we know how it's difficult to reorganize structure in the company. But the level of the country is much, much more comprehensive and complicated. So if we're going deeper to these three levels, let us take one from one. The fixed price and timing or time of delivery. Let's say half a year for Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and Georgian railway, so they can come up to the fixed price. It took 6 months. Another example. The end of 2022, one of the company in Kazakhstan, they say, okay, we can ship coal in the middle corridor. During we were discussing the fixed price, it was already not winter, it was already spring, and the pricing was quite difficult. So it is complicated process, a lot of alternatives, a lot of participants, a lot of things to negotiate, but it's like dynamic conditions and the pressure about the pricing, the fixing the price in the middle corridor. So what we can do with this, and again, easy to do, easy to say, difficult to do, it's to come up with one mechanism, to have mechanism on negotiating the price. The next one, delivery time. All shippers, they want to have guarantee. Let us say even our example that we had collapse, like last year, we had collapse of the containers. We were going from the China, then it was collapse, and they couldn't come in time, of course, and they were stuck in the middle corridor. But by the end of summer, we learned how to do it in 16 days or 20. So, but it was time, it was process when we could optimize this time, but it actually reduced cost a lot. It reduced cost, it optimized the business, and of course predictability about delivery time. Coming to the second point, that we can also make the narrow places more wider. And I'm talking about the infrastructure, because there are a lot of some people, they have ports, some people have infrastructure of railways, and there are different challenges we face. What is important? To have coordinated map between countries, how to work in, let's say, challenging places. So not only on the country level, but to have it like the map for all countries, and also to come the priorities. Okay, so to what places we need to focus more, and how we can work on this together. And number third point is about developing good operational process system, and I already mentioned the example that we could make the delivery time very optimized, but it took us time. But it is talking to us that we can reduce a lot of time if we optimize the processes. And also there are a lot of examples like how we can make it better, how we can make it and we have a lot of examples that because of the joint planning and strategy and etc., it is really helpful to optimize the processes. So if we can have joint let's say, coordination. It is very helpful. And I also want to mention that it is complicated process, and we cannot build it inside like of one company. Okay, Uzbekistan Railway or Azerbaijan Railway. The process should be built on the national level. We need to build the product. Easy to say, difficult to make, but there is no other way, and it is not simple way, and it requires wisdom and mutual respect between all participants. And I think that respect and wisdom we have. And for person who is doing the big part, let's say, of my work here in the Middle Corridor for 10 years already. So I really believe that it will be very helpful for all countries. And maybe to responding to your second question, what opportunities we have for investors, I don't think that I will say something new. Of course, the big corridors, it's big investments, it's this, infrastructure, it is terminals, it is big investments. And I think a lot of participants, they are open to private investments like railways to the infrastructure, and the colleagues already were sharing about it. I think it is big opportunities for investors and to have it long-term profit. Thank you very much.
And I think this is a very interesting and useful discussion we've had. And what I also learned from it is probably some of the things we already knew, but it's a good refresher, is that the region definitely has a big potential, as all of us have talked about. And one data point which kind of I had in my mind and which kind of came up from the last few discussions is that the number of transits across borders kind of add up to the costs, and that's what makes the land transportation more expensive compared to the sea transportation at times. And also a different data point which just came to my mind when I was listening to all of you was last year the Suez Canal was blocked for a few days and global trade kind of stopped. So that's how important the trade and cross-border and all this connectivity is important, that a few days of lack of connectivity can actually disrupt the entire world. So what is very helpful and useful to have, and it's good to have both the public sector and the private sector here, because across different parts of the world, and I'm sure it's happening here also, the whole concept of public-private partnerships are coming into play. And in transport, once the private sector expertise comes along with the political will of the public sector, it could very well be a huge, I would say, growth in terms of the delivery of transport and logistics projects in the region. So I think I'll kind of leave it at that. Any questions for the panelists? Happy to take that from the audience. And thank you again for the panelists from my side. Yes, sir.
Can I ask you?
Yes, please.
Can I ask you? Yeah. Is before his middle corridor is considering as alternative road, now is becoming is a reality. So not only is Russian, just and our colleague mentioned Russian-Ukraine conflict, how will we continue? Nobody know. But same time is this road is becoming more important, and this is why I have some questions from colleagues. Я хотел, Канат и Михаил, вас спросить. Вот вы очень...
Well, I wanted to ask you, because you have been mentioning about this middle corridor, a lot of issues you have raised into the floor, and the key issue is about what? We are policymakers in most of cases, but some people are saying that from Kazakhstani part there are some issues, or from Azerbaijani part they are not able to cope with the speed of construction. So when you are trying to, for example, consent on something, the season, the time has already gone. So we do need to have to put it in place, and of course, we need to report to our seniors. And President of Uzbekistan today has especially stated that the political will, everyone has it, frankly speaking, but what is important for transportation is, first of all, period of delivery and the cost of delivery. Therefore, you have mentioned that you can transport it in 1 hour, in 1.5 hour. We have eyewitnessed it while pandemic, but talking about our middle corridor, as I have already mentioned, we have not been considering this alternative, but now everyone wants to develop it, and we are also having some other route via Iran, and we have some challenges over there also. So, what is the reason, and how can we resolve these challenges? What do you think? For example, our organization, OTS, and our countries are keen and interested, as I have mentioned in my speech, because this is our key priority, and all of our countries are represented there. Yes, thank you so much for, I would say, very tricky and complicated question. I will try to answer it, and well, it is my personal vision, and of course, if you do not have any, I would say, a platform to have it via operational, I would say, discussions and operational solutions within the framework of these corridors, but of course, we would like to develop these corridors at all levels. This is a willingness that we have a lot of, I would say, political agreements at high levels, but the key issue is that we should get back to operational issues. Well, the key issue is the price. Everyone is seeking for discount, and because the cost of coal dropped at international markets, and of course we have to negotiate with a lot of I would say participants of the market, and of course that is the issue, because here we are trying to we are puzzled trying to understand where the cargo is stuck in Kazakhstan, in Azerbaijan, what is the issue of the coast, and of course we are experiencing these issues. And let me be very frank that of course, regarding these operational issues, we do not know what to do, and of course, that is the way how I can simply answer your question. And of course, when we have very high competition, what to do? Very fierce competition. Well, here, Michael, probably there are two levels where we have to discuss, and probably we have ministries, we have other organizations who have taken liabilities to coordinate investment into these corridors. So if we would like to improve the connectivity, what should we do? Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, they have to resolve these issues, I guess. Well, the second level, I mean the operational level, which Michael told in this is very important, and also we can also mention Azerbaijan. I mean, they are representatives of ports, of railroad, of maritime transport. So indeed, that is the issue, and of course. I guess you should not bring this issue to international level. You can go there, and that is the way how you can resolve the issues. And of course, I would like to tell you that I do not want to promote myself, but because in Kazakhstan, Temurjulu, when they were in charge, became in charge of everything, including ports, as a single operator, they were the one who are able to embrace everything, including whatever they want. And of course, this is my opinion, and of course you should have one operator. And also in 2016 when Ukraine wanted to join this corridor, we didn't know with whom to discuss because Ukraine railroads were saying one thing, Odessa ports were saying different things, and so it was an issue for all of us. And of course, we had to negotiate with the private companies. We didn't know where it was and with whom to work because railways are saying one thing, but the remaining part of logistics was out of control by anyone. Therefore, this multimodal is an issue, and therefore you need to have a single operator in charge for everything from each particular country. In charge for everything, I mean in charge both for operational policy, and of course it indeed helps us to be more flexible with prices and delivery terms, and of course there is an opportunity for us to be able to deliver cargo in time with the proper things, and of course it could help us with 1,000 at least kilometers a day to ensure the cargo transportation within this distance a day.
Lively discussion and a very useful discussion. I think I learned a lot. I'm sure a lot of you would have learned. I think I'm just realizing we're short of time and we have a signing ceremony, I guess, which some of us might have to attend. So from my side, I think a big thank you to all the panelists. I think it's wonderful. So if I may request a big round of applause for the panel. So thank you so much, everybody. And I'm sure we are all available if there are any questions. I think I had not much to say, but if there are any questions for the panelists, I'm sure you can get hold of them on the side and we can talk of the middle corridor and more.
May I add something?
Yes, please.
So the question from the Secretary General and the answers took at least 10 minutes. It's easy, invest in air cargo and you will avoid a lot. Thank you.